Good afternoon, everyone. We're still getting ready to go live on YouTube, and appreciate you joining us today. We'll open up our chat for the main room here now. If you want to join us on Zoom, you're welcome to do that. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to start welcoming you here to Gov School, where we're going to talk about the RFP with a little twist today. And we're going to try some new tools to help you out. So when you come into the room, I would ask that you please maintain your mute status, and that will help us with the background. Still letting everybody in the room, bringing you all in now. Please, if you don't mind, just reach up and mute yourself. That will help us out in the background. And this is a Q&A, so it's designed for you to ask questions. And so feel free to do that. Just unmute yourself and raise your hand, or and we'll call on you. Or you can ask your question in the chat box, which I'm going to open up right now as we're letting everybody still in the room here. Everybody get a big crowd here today. I always like to give you some takeaways, and I'm going to give you a copy of a little pamphlet that I wrote called the RFP, and this will help you out. If you've been to my classes today online, I'd like to see your first name, last name, and your company if you can. And if you want to go ahead and start sharing information about your company, that's certainly welcomed. In the chat box, you can share it with each other. Just remember that this is a public channel for your privacy reasons. We do thank you for coming today, where we're going to talk just a little bit about the request for proposal for all of you who are somewhat new to government. This is the primary instrument that government uses to attract your attention in order to hire you as a potential contractor. If you are familiar with our services, Gov Directions, first of all, is located in Atlanta, Georgia. We've been in this market space since 1998, and we serve just over 116,000 companies worldwide who are tracking what's happening in the local, state, and federal government level. So each of you are certainly welcome today to come in and do some quick searches. Our primary objective is to help you find the contract. We learned early on, though, it takes a little bit more to win it. So we created Gov School. It's a platform where you can learn with each other, all thanks to Zoom and some of the technologies that we have been introduced to more lately, or we've been able to expand it significantly. And then, of course, our Gov Advice platform, which is there for you to work with micro consultants. So not only do we teach you how to do it, do yourself, but then we also have folks who can help you, subject matter experts who can be available. And we try to introduce tools that can save you time. In fact, RFP delivery, of course, now is a geospatial presentation, as well as using advanced technology and intelligence to gather and pinpoint information for you, so you're not missing listings, trying to get it to you quicker. Here's all the active opportunities available across the globe, and you can zoom in on those and call attention to them. There's a park pavilion right there somebody's needing some help with. So we like to introduce these tools, one of which more recently, I think it's catching everybody's attention, but BARD. BARD is Google's new platform to allow you to introduce artificial intelligence to help you write, I think, maybe language. And, I think we're all still kind of learning what artificial intelligence can do for us.
That's the package.
And so
that's the package, but it's past noon.
So let's just see here. I'm going to make sure we've got you muted. Okay. And it does help for, there we go. Please make sure you're muted when you come in the room, and that'll help with background for everybody else. So everybody can enjoy. If you do have a question, though, ask that question in the chat box, and I'll call on you as we go along. So it didn't mean to remove you there. Let's see again. Okay. And we continue to admit individuals into the room today. So here, of course, RFP delivery designed to really pinpoint and get that RFP in front of you. But when the request for proposals in front of you, then you need to know what to do. And so that's what we're going to focus in on today in this particular presentation for you. And you'll see the actual document that I dropped into the chat box there. It's a document I've written. You can follow along, has the same information that you might want. You can download that and use it to your advantage to really learn what governments are using. I think some of you know that I teach a class to actually future RFP writers. So, these are the government officials who are going to be leading your communities. I've been doing that for a few years, and so I thought, well, why don't I just reverse this and come back and teach contractors how to actually read what they're writing, and to help you to kind of go in there and focus in on particular parts of the RFP that you're going to be using in order to respond to the government. The request for proposal is the primary instrument for governments to interact with you and to help you in the process of awarding a contract to come in there and provide some subject matter expertise that you have for them. I think, if you get into too big of theory here, I like to kind of expose you some of it, but the whole concept of the theory to firm, Ronald Coase, Professor Coase, has introduced to us over decades and continue to expand. But essentially that, we don't need to do everything ourselves. And so we create firms, and you can become subject matter experts. Each of you do your own thing, and then we kind of contract with each other. And so that allows you to focus on what you do best. And so government's the same way. And so we have a strong philosophy in the United States where we like to contract out and bring in the folks like you who know what you're doing in order to get the job done effective and efficiently. And so when they do that, they want to make sure, of course, that they're treating everybody fairly. Okay. One question I always get or a comment is, Mark, aren't these things already a done deal? When I look at this, it looks like it's been written by my competitor, and I think they've already made a decision. Well, the truth of the matter is no. In fact, anytime you see an RFP or other instruments, that means that they're introducing the product into a competitive marketplace, and they're looking for competition, and they're looking to make the best choice. And so in order to do that, they got to make sure they help you understand what they're looking for, and at the same time treat everybody else in the same way, the same manner, so you can all effectively communicate and compete against each other, so they can get the best deal. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about one of the primary instruments. Of course, GovSchool is the way we do that. And there are other sessions that we have. Make sure you go check it out at govschool.com and come back and learn. In fact, we got another one this afternoon, a little bit later, talking about price research. But we have another classes all throughout the week. In fact, one of my favorite is where the tag team to this particular class, and that is how to actually write a proposal in response. And so Tammy Bailey Fulch, who is one of my favorite persons, who will come with us on Thursday afternoon at 4:00, and she'll sit with a group. Typically, we keep that in a smaller group setting, around 8 to 10 individuals, so she can really work with you and teach you, the ABCs of technical writing, accuracy, brevity, clarity. We hear me talk about some of that in some of the classes I teach. But that's on Thursday afternoon, so make sure you check that one out. And just remember, as you see this information today, don't let it overwhelm you. But it is actually supposed to be hard. Okay, if it were easy, everyone would do it. There's a reason why you're here, and it's important. That's for you to learn and become better at what it is. Tom Hanks said this quote in a movie. It's about softball. That softball team were in a league of their own, and women were there and learning to become the best. And in order to be the best, they had to. And it was hard. And so make sure you understand that in the process. And so don't get frustrated. One of the things I always like to tell folks is when you first see the RFP, you see an RFP that you're interested, catches your attention, and you're starting to look at it, read through it all the way. Set it to, print it out. Make sure you print it out. Just seeing it online, sometimes it just doesn't have the same, it doesn't give you the same types of data and information for you to actually look at and visualize and see it. But print it out, mark off the things that you know. Okay, some things you're going to stick out, stand out to you, and you can say, I know how to do this part. And then focus on things you don't know, okay? And then do that research. That's the hard part. In learning everything that you see, you can learn and teach yourself how, and eventually you'll know everything that you need to know on an RFP when you look at it. I get to a point now where I've been doing this for 34 plus years. You're supposed to stop at 25, I think, but I really enjoy it. And so, whenever I've won some 350 plus contracts in some 34 states now, most of mine are in dealing with human resource and compensation management. Sort of my background. That's the subject matter expertise I bring to government in the field. And so now I get to a point where I actually can pick it up and look at it within minutes, and I know if it's something I'm really interested in. If it's not, then it'll just move along, because it's a $6 trillion marketplace now. And so you've got opportunity out there. You should be able to find opportunity. So don't drag yourself down on something that really doesn't fit you. Okay. And I'm going to give you some quotes to go along as we learn that today. But the objective today, in the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so, and I'm not going to rush you. So if you have questions, make sure you ask them. But this session here is going to identify the structure of a request for proposal. We're actually going to walk through each section, and I'm going to explain the importance. And then I'm going to use an actual RFP. I'm a big believer in experiential learning, getting out there and doing it, okay, as an example to identify each section. And then, I'm going to add a purpose today, and that is, learn how to use artificial intelligence to respond to an RFP, okay? And learn is going to be, a big word there, because I think we're all learning how to use AI if it's not teaching us. So that's something we're going to try to accomplish today too. And I'm going to try to give you some skill sets that I've been working to perfect as well. And just to say that, get to a point in life where things just start going over your head a little bit. I might be at that point, so I'm going to do the best I can here today. So, the first thing you want to do, though, when you're looking at the RFP, the request for proposal, is think about the different pieces of documents, different documents that governments are using to get your attention. Okay. And still folks coming into the room here, so bear with me as I try to juggle a couple different things. So we want to make this a live session for you to enjoy. But here are the primary contracting instruments that you're going to see whenever you deal with government. And just, the contracting instrument, I use the word instrument primarily as a way to kind of, it's basically putting you on the same sheet of music. So everybody is seeing the same thing. So you're able to respond in the same way and treated fairly in the process. And that is an overarching goal for governments at all levels, is to actively involve you. And I just stress to you that governments will help you. Whenever they give you a contact person, reach out to them, ask the questions that you need. They really are there to make sure they get a good proposal, and it's to their advantage to help you do that. Okay. And I always just like to point out that, when you're dealing with government too, the last thing they want to do is embarrass themselves, choose their own company, okay, and then embarrass themselves. And so we don't want you to actually do that, okay? So here we have the primary instruments. The first couple there, three of them: request for information, request for qualification, source of salt. Sometimes the RFI, the RFQ, and then the sources. Is sort of how we some of the jargon, learn all the jargon and the acronyms. Okay. But these three documents are really an announcement. We're looking for someone to help us, tell us how you can do that. The request for information tends to be the one where it's, we're not quite sure. Maybe, I know I need to use BARD. I know I need to use artificial intelligence in some way, but I'm not quite sure how to do it. So tell me how you can make that work for me. Okay. And so tell me about your company. And then the request for qualifications there, I need to make sure that I've got a civil engineer working with us. And I want to know everybody's qualifications, where you went to school, things like what's your work background, give me your qualifications. Or, even maybe I'm pre-approving plumbers for the coming fiscal year or coming budget year. And I want to make sure you're on this list, so that individuals who work for us in our university, for example, can then call on you and get you to come in there and do the work. I've already negotiated the price that you're working at, and I've already pre-approved you as a qualified contractor. And then, of course, the final source of salt there, we saw a lot of this when we entered into the pandemic, where basically they just want to make sure, who has paper towels. We want to know who has, wipes. That was a big one. And even here, just we're looking at and making see who's got the product that we can deal with. This is oftentimes also when we're dealing with disaster spending. We talked about that yesterday, and or just some just going into a localized market to see if there's anyone local that can provide a service or a supply that I need to get there in that community. And so so those three there, all very broad, but you need to be able to quickly respond to those, and you have documents ready to do that. For example, in these cases, these three here, you really want to make sure you got a solid capability statement. If you don't have that, you can reach out to us. We have a session coming up tomorrow talking about capability statements as part of that overall. We always do that on Wednesday mornings and just talk about big issues, but capability statements are always a big issue for us because that's the way you get yourself in front of governments. In addition, you want to watch for these at, for example, statewide emergency management websites. These are sometimes not broadcast globally. We, of course, do pick them up at Gov Directions and RFP Delivery and then match them to you. But sometimes it's helpful to watch in your individual state if you are, because these are oftentimes quick and they're looking for someone to help them right away. And typically will end up into a contract with you in some way, but not initially. Okay, first they just want to see if there's a marketplace. And if you don't respond to them, you're doing yourself a disharm, because in that case, they potentially could go to market with someone else, and you want to be that someone else. Okay, and then we get into the more formal solicitations documents that are there. And then first, the invitation to quote, something sometimes very informal. I'm gonna pick up the phone, I'm gonna call you, and I'm inviting you to quote me a price. Something that's is very common in the marketplace. Everybody should have, maybe even done business with them before. Okay, and then we also, and so that's typically very informal. It could be sometimes more formal, but they only reach out to small group settings, and you want to make sure that you put yourself in front of the government in some way in the past, marketing and branding and communicating with them using the capability statement, going to industry days, because oftentimes those invitation to quotes can come very, very informally. And then we have the more formal invitation to bid or request for bid, ITBs or RFPs. These are where the government knows exactly what they want. Okay, and then they're going to tell you, they'll give you the specs. Sometimes you read them and you think that your competitor's written the specs. Well, believe it or not, that can actually happen, because there's no reason for them to reinvent the wheel all the time. Okay, so why don't you get your specs written and pass it out at industry days? Make sure they have the samples, have a sample document ready to go that is specifically designed to hire you. Put yourself out there. And if they use that, then great. That's all dandy there. It's going to work for you, work to your advantage. Okay. But those invitations to bid, very formal, no room, almost always best quality, best price situation. And you're going in there and you're sharpening your pencils in order to win the business. Okay. Pricing strategy is very important in that capacity. I was even just talking with someone yesterday. I was showing them an example of how pricing sometimes works. Somebody goes in, they bid low, have 5 competitors. They bid low then, knowing that there's going to be another bid coming out soon. And you get so low that you ward off everybody else. So you don't come back the second time. And then the next time you go in there, they raise the price a little bit. So when you're doing that price research, use that to your advantage. Know that's probably going to happen, and don't go and fall for the bait. It's kind of like fishing. You got to be careful with it. Okay? And then we end up with my favorite, and this is because it allows you to shine as a company. So put some effort into it, and that is the request for proposal. This is when they tell you exactly what they're trying to achieve, but you, as a subject matter expert, can help them and help them understand what they actually need to do in order to get that. And you're going to be able to tell them that you're going to have some methods that you're going to write, and you're going to really shine for your company. And it's not almost always, I should say, I'm not sure it sounds like a double negative. It's never really based on low price. Okay. It's going to be based on your qualifications, your experience, your ability to understand what they're looking for, your ability to express yourself. Okay. And then price is sometimes a part of that, but oftentimes not. And so it's important that you understand that in the process itself. So the RFP, we have a formal definition. So what is an RFP? Okay. A request for proposal, first of all, it's a solicitation. That means they want you to respond. They want it to be competitive. Okay. They're asking. So don't ignore them. Don't think, as I said earlier, that it's written for someone else, because it's not. It's written for you. Okay. They're trying to get your attention if you're in this field. Okay. It's definitely, though, typically through a bidding process. Sometimes it can be negotiated, but through a bidding process of some sort where you're competing against other parties. Okay. And it's always by someone who wants to hire you. The agency, a company, they're looking to do business with you in some way. And that's important in the process of actually procuring that, because eventually it's something that's important to them. It's a valuable asset. And then they went before the city council, they went before the county board of commissioners, they went before the school board or the airport board, and they've convinced them to give them the buying power to actually go out and hire you. And so it's important. They put a lot of effort into it. So, everything you see on RFP delivery, it's always, every one of these opportunities have been through an elaborate decision-making process. A lot of people have been involved in it. This park pavilion, that probably came about by someone who literally is interested in the community and went to the city council and said, hey, we want a park pavilion in Kinswick. How do we go about doing that? And then they get it all together. They have budget hearings. They have individuals involved in it, and maybe going to name it after somebody in the community. There's a lot of people involved in these decisions. So know that it's serious, it's important, and it's valuable to that community. So to always take it seriously. So when you go and you respond, put your best foot forward. Okay, and then it's always sent to potential suppliers. Okay, they want to know beforehand that you're going to be able to provide the service or supply that they need. Okay, and that's where your capability statement really comes in. When you look at an RFP, there's going to be some specific parts to it. Okay, so you have your statement of work. This is the first part. And each of those, this is an ideal situation. I go in there, and when I teach this to graduate students, I say, this is the way we should lay it out. But when you get into the real live world, you're going to have these components to it, but it could be in mismatch, okay, around the document. So you may have to pull it out and find it, but all of them will have these basic characteristics. That statement of work, the first thing, going to be a couple paragraphs, at most, maybe just 2 or 3 sentences, but it should be, as I said, ABC, accurate, brief, and clear. You should see it, you should know it, and that it fits your company. In fact, I always go in, and I have this favorite quote that I use from Coldplay. It's a song. You're the one that I wanted to find. Okay, so remember that. Whenever you see that statement of work, it literally, that song needs to start singing in the back of your head. And if it does, then that's a good one. Stay with it. If it doesn't, move along. There's too much opportunity in the government contracting space. Okay, that statement of work, first of all, is the main thing that needs to speak to you. In fact, whenever I read the statement of work, I'm already going to start looking at particular indicators that would measure my success typically. So I call them, as you might imagine, indicators of success. So this could be things like where it's located, what's the size of the government, what's the budget anticipated to be. These are items that are going to be familiar to you, that when you see them, you're going to know if this is in that RFP, I got a pretty darn good chance of winning it. And in fact, I'm at a point now in my career, I've been doing this for a long time, that if I bid on an RFP, I'm going to be probably at a 75% chance of winning that. Okay, I don't want to waste my time. Okay, that wasn't always the case, but it has got to that point now. Okay, and just one second. And then you step back and you have, next you have your technical specifications. Okay, your technical specifications are there, and these are the items that the actual government is looking for in order to, as a part of that document. Okay, and they're going to be itemized. Okay, typically they're going to be 1 through 10, 1 through 15, 1 through 20. Okay, and you'll see that. And so when you read those, pay attention to that order. Don't go back in and reorder things. Oftentimes I use this as a part of the process to go in and respond. Okay, and so this is how I build my response. And so when you go in there and you do that, and so list them out. Okay, I'm going to show you some examples here. Here, if you don't match it 100%, it's okay. You're going to look at it and you're going to say, I can do most of this. Maybe this is where you think about bringing in a team, but you never walk away from it. You don't never just skip over it. Okay, so when you every single thing that they ask for in the technical specs, you want to make sure you address. Okay, I never go beyond. Don't try to be creative in this process too much. Okay, and so you speak to what they're asking you to speak to first, because the main person you're trying to get by is a procurement officer, and that's important. Okay, and then you have the next is a schedule of things and how you're going to actually work to do that. Okay, well, how the first is going to be the schedule to respond to it, and then it's going to be the schedule of deliverables, and so you're working on that on both sides of the equation. Okay, but know that the schedule is typically not going to be changed for you, so you got to make sure you can meet that. And meeting expectations is a big part of this. Okay. Then the list of deliverables, once again, typically itemized and there for you so that you can come in and respond to each of those. Okay. And then you have your contract terms and conditions. Contract terms and conditions is typically where your profit center is at. So make sure you understand that and how you're going to have to do things. So what is forbearance? How are you going to be, how if something goes wrong, how are you going to go in there and work that? It's important how you're going to solve any issues that come up. But understand also governments are not likely to ever change your contract terms. So it's important that you are aware of that. And then you got your format of proposal. Here, the good thing about government is they're going to tell you exactly how to respond to them. Okay. And you need to pay attention to it. So whenever someone's telling you exactly what they're going to do, they don't want you to go out there and change that. Okay. And oftentimes this is where you get disqualified. You didn't follow instructions. Okay. So build that portfolio inside your Google Drive in order to come back in and actually prepare a document in the right way. Okay. And do that and pay attention to all the details. The small things like where you assign a signature at, for example. Okay. Qualification experience. These, speak to you. Just because you don't have a qualification doesn't mean you should walk away again. You want to sell yourself. This is where you actually sell yourself in your when you're working with government. Okay. And just as you come into the room, make sure you have your mute status on. And if it helps everybody in background. And then your cost breakdown, learn how to do your pricing and learn how to do it in different ways. And you'll find that that's a helpful practice to do that. And also make sure you start capturing what others are doing in this part. The governments for them will all tell you how to break down the cost, and they want to make sure you're uniform, so do it the way they ask, not the way you do it traditionally. Okay, so that's important that you do that. And then finally, the evaluation criteria. Governments will tell you how they're going to evaluate you. Okay, so that's important that you pay attention to that. And if it's, if cost is only 10% and qualification experience is 40%, and you got solid qualifications and experience, then that's a good situation for you. Okay. And so you don't necessarily need to go in there and lowball on the price when you got very high qualifications. Okay. So just understand that, but understand the evaluation criteria itself. Okay. And also remember, especially in the schedule itself, work expands to fill the time available for completion. So you need to get ready for things. Okay. So you need to, what I have, you see one of my things is my Google Drive. I have a Google Drive, it's free tools to help you. And then you can go in, you can build your Google Drive and basically have everything ready to go. Okay. And you might have to make some minor modifications. And so, and that's important. Okay. And have different versions of things, save the information, save completed responses. In fact, I even have a drive, a folder that only has my competitors' responses that they've sent in the past. And I just keep that in there. And then I look at it and take a look at it. I don't necessarily use it to frame my response very often anymore, but I did when I first started. And it helped me understand how people were winning and how my competitors were winning, what I needed to do. Okay. So use the Google Drive as one of your friends. And so as we get into this whole process of discussion, I'll give you some tips. When you first pick up an RFP, make sure you read the entire proposal. Okay. And from start to finish. Okay. And when you do it there, set it aside, pay attention to the areas that we discussed. Okay. And as you're reading it. Okay. I meant to say that. So and then items, you may have to go out and really find where the technical specs are at and where the deliverables are at. And so pull that information out. Okay. Don't be afraid of it. It's supposed to be a little hard and you may not want to understand everything at first. You'll get better at it. Okay. When you find one that you like, talk to your colleagues, to bounce it around a little bit, make sure you are a good fit. Okay. And then complete the proposal all at once. Okay. And that will help you in the process. And if you get 3 days to do it, be able to complete it in 3 days. Okay. If you got 30 days, take the 30 days. Okay. Take your time. And use it effectively. Use the time to your advantage. There can be some changes in the marketplace and how you're going about doing things. Okay. And just remember, as you're going along, it's going to be hard, like we said, but it's also that the only source of knowledge is experience. You got to be in there. You got to be learning together, learning how to do things, learning from failure. It's a process. Okay. It's how you do things. Okay. So let's go in there and let's take a look at an actual RFP that's out there. Okay. And you're going to play around with BARD today. I'm just going to show you how to get the leg up on something, maybe your response. But in your account at RFP Delivery, you can always go in and pull out, and let's just make sure I'm logged into my demo account. I'm going to pull that up. So log in, you go here, sign in, go to log into that account, and you will see, let's see here, demo at Gov Directions. It's my account today. I'm going in and it'll take me straight to my dashboard. In my dashboard, I'm going to have tools that are going to allow me to really pinpoint opportunity and find, go out there and find the one that I wanted to find. Okay. And you know what? I work in compensation studies. So let's take a look at compensation studies, see what's out there. Okay. Go in there, good Boolean search technique allows you to very quickly pull those documents that have those keywords. Okay. See some of them. There actually are some of them out there. And let me go look at this one in Arkansas. I think it's the one I was looking at earlier. There we go. This one's due on May the 30th. The state and local government. State and local government's where the action's at. There's probably 20 contracts for most folks in state and local government for every one federal. So make sure you're doing that. If it's a federal bid, we're going to tell you this one here's state and local. So I'll drop in there and then I'm able to come in and see this for Hot Springs. Okay. I'm not sure if that's the one I used earlier. Let me just find the one because I was playing around with it and I had a good, yeah, maybe it was Hot Springs. Okay. And so here we're going to find the actual title. We're going to look for that. This is exactly what I do. It's at a mid-sized community. These are indicators of success that I work with. I like Hot Springs. It's a good area. I know it's going to be a place that I can do business. And so I'm not wasting my time. I'm learning. This captures my attention. If we got some competitive intelligence, we're going to tell you about that. It's something that can help you. But our main goal, first of all, I'm going to make sure I don't lose it. So I'm going to save it, capture it, and put it in my capture folder. This way I can always pull it back if somehow or another I lose my link and I can't find it. There's 50,000 listings in there today, folks, and you don't want to have that missed. Okay. And so we go in there and view the save bids there when I need to. But my main goal, though, is to get out of this location here, go in to the document itself. Okay. So here we are. I'm at Hot Springs. And at this point, I'm working directly with the government, and they've got some numbers in the bid and the RFP. And I'm going to, and so you see interchangeably the titles, bids, RFPs. And so you see, sometimes it's not always so formal, but there is typically, this is a request for proposal or a statement of qualifications that they're looking for, commonly referred to as an RFP. Then I'm going to open it up and it's going to give me a document. So here we go. There's this document there. And my scope, and in fact, this one here, I'm gonna have to actually go and pull it and get some more information in order to do that. But then I want to point this out. I found the document, the primary document, and try to get to it. And I wanted to potentially get some help writing a response back. So BARD is this new experiment that Google's doing. It's putting these excellent tools in front of us. And so what I want to do is I want to ask BARD to help me prepare a response back. So when I'm going to start this, it's important that whenever you use this, I'm going to use it in different ways here, but I come in, I ask it a question, here's my prompt, and I'm going to ask it to write a response, okay, to the request for proposal. And I'm going to give it the actual URL number so it can go in and read it. And so it's going to pull it out for me, and it's going to come back and maybe tell me, if this, see how it responds. It's unable to help because it's a language model. And so then I got to work around my language a little bit. And so maybe I come back and I did a different inquiry, a query for it. It's a prepare a response, okay, to the request for proposal. Go in, run the request, and look. Oh, there it is. It's going to actually write me a response. Isn't that cool? And so when you go in there, and it may not be, and this is actually, I used the wrong one. I said earlier I did Houston, I think it was that I was looking at. So coming in, it's running against a Houston RFP, but it's the same concept. You go in there, you choose, you find where your document's at. You can actually drop it in as a PDF or others, and it can give you that initial response. And so this wrote me more of a cover letter style. And so what I even went in a little bit further, and I said, try again and give me an amount that I should bid, both a letter, okay? And so I run that. Let me see here, over here, submit. So now it's going to give me a proposed amount based on some information there. Okay, it's going to get in there, and then they've proposed a fee of $50,000 for this project. Okay, based on information they've already found within the document. And so I continue to do that. And you know what? I wanted to actually get a little bit more detail. And so here I say, go ahead, try again, and add all my deliverables in the RFP. And so what this has done, it's not going to give me a final RFP, but it's giving me great template to go and work with. It's some great language skills. It's going to be more to the point. It's going to add the deliverables, and you can continue to expand it, and to have a pre clear document that you can start with. So all of you guys out there, you don't have those great writing skills, a lot of you, this is an excellent little tool to use completely free. And you can go to bard.google.com and drop in your information, ask for a response. I understand that, I'm well beyond my college career, but I still teach a little bit, but college students are using it to actually write term papers. So it's got some downsides to it, but in business though, it's got some upsides. So here we are today. I wanted to spend some time with you, have a little fun with BARD, showing you how to use that, and going to bard.com. We tried to accomplish some specific objectives here today, and hopefully we have together, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. Let me go see if there's any questions in the chat box. This, of course, is a recorded version, and it's on YouTube Live, and it will be available to you in just a few minutes after we finish the session. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel. So what versions of AI we're using. In this particular case here, I'm just using the public chat. I'm not using ChatGPT. I'm using BARD, bard.google.com. Okay, and this is still the experiment version. Some of you are out there, they're continuing to fine tune it. I think they released another version this past couple of days here, and they're continuing to improve the skill sets with it. Okay. Will the slide? Yes. You have a document sent to you that have all the slides in it as well. Okay. Everybody who clicked through today will automatically get that thanks to AI. And we're continuing to advance our own services using AI as well. As you can see, I've been working on this, and this is hopefully one of the things we're going to tie to your accounts. If you use the middleman method, I'm a little bit off that on that question, so maybe you and I'll drop a link to BARD in the chat. Yes, I will. Okay. You may have to contact me on that question. I'm not quite sure if I understand that altogether. Because how does it gain knowledge? Some of this is really beyond me, but basically what we're doing is indexing documents, okay? And they're it actually reads the index, and then so you have that that information available to you in using AI. Any more questions? If you ever have any questions, you can go back in and on your main page, go to RFP delivery or home, and you should see at the top there a request a demo or schedule a session, and you can choose Mark, and I'm available and be glad to talk to you individually with any questions that you have. So thank you everybody for coming, and have a great afternoon.